Scroll your feed and you see it everywhere. Viral clips of so-called swarm agents doing code reviews, research sprints, and end-to-end workflows. It looks like a new revolution in multi-agent AI just dropped overnight. But here's the twist nobody tells you up front. The framework everyone keeps name dropping, OpenAI Swarm, is officially dead. What you are actually seeing in most of those demos is something very different and a lot more serious. OpenAI AgentKit. Imagine this. Your company ships a multi-agent copilot that can plan, research, call tools, and escalate to humans, all while your security team actually sleeps at night. No custom glue code jungle, no fragile demo scripts. That is the promise behind AgentKit, the real multi-agent play OpenAI unveiled at Dev Day in October 2025. And in a minute, you will see why calling it a swarm update is like calling a self-driving car a better bicycle. To understand why everyone is confused, you need to meet the ghost in this story, Swarm. Back in 2024, Swarm was a tiny GitHub experiment from OpenAI. Under 100 lines of Python, stateless agents passing control like a baton using the old chat completions API. It was catnip for hackers and educators because you could read one file and understand the whole thing. But here's the pattern break. The second you tried to run anything real on top of it, Swarm fell apart. Swarm shipped without the basics you need for production. No built-in memory layer, no structured tracing, no safety guardrails, no clear patterns for retries or human-in-the-loop checkpoints. Just bare prompt handoffs and some routing logic. Fun for a weekend hack, terrifying for a mission-critical workflow. By March 2025, OpenAI quietly made it official. Swarm was deprecated, shelved, and documentation started pointing developers toward a new agent SDK that would become AgentKit. So when influencers tease a 2025 Swarm update, they are really selling vibes, not a version bump. AgentKit is OpenAI answering the question Swarm never could. How do you build multi-agent systems that do not collapse the moment you leave the demo stage? Where Swarm was a clever repository, AgentKit is a full-stack platform designed to live inside real products with real users and real service level agreements. It flips the script with opinionated defaults for observability, policy, and scaling, so you do not have to swap frameworks mid-flight when your prototype suddenly gets traction. And here's where it gets interesting. AgentKit is not just code. It is a visual way to design entire agent organizations. At the center of AgentKit sits the Agent Builder, a drag and drop canvas that looks more like a design tool than a terminal. You drag blocks for planners, tools, retrievers, evaluators, and human checkpoints, wiring them together like Lego bricks. Under the hood, it compiles into a full agent graph, but on the surface you are just rearranging colored nodes instead of juggling async callbacks and brittle glue code. In a moment, we will see how this changes debugging and safety, but first, notice the shift. Multi-agent orchestration is no longer a hidden script. It is a first-class artifact your whole team can reason about. Agent Builder also bakes in all the ugly plumbing Swarm left up to you. You define long-term memory stores once, configure tool schemas, attach model context protocol servers, and wire guardrails at the graph level. Every agent in that workflow then inherits the same safety policies and logging stack by default. No more copy-pasting filters across random scripts. But here is the part most people miss. AgentKit does not stop at the back-end graph. It ships the front-end too. ChatKit is the bridge between your agent graphs and real users. It gives you app-ready chat surfaces, web components, mobile SDKs, and design tokens that you can drop into internal consoles or customer-facing products. The same agent workflow can power a support copilot, an internal engineering assistant, and an embedded widget without rebuilding the interface 3 times. Underneath, ChatKit handles session state, user identity, and multi-tenant isolation, so thousands of users and dozens of agent types can safely share one deployment. This is not just nicer UI. It is the difference between a lab toy and a product your ops team can support. Then there is the connector registry, which is where AgentKit really pulls away from Swarm-inspired clones. OpenAI ships more than 200 plug and play connectors for tools like Dropbox, Google Drive, Slack, Microsoft Teams, Salesforce, Jira, GitHub, and Snowflake. Instead of hand-rolling OAuth flows and brittle wrappers, you flip connectors on, map roles and fields, and expose those tools only to the agents that need them. Policy controls and audit logs ride along, so security teams can finally sign off on multi-agent access to production data. In a minute, we will talk about safety, but you can already see it. This is infrastructure, not a weekend project. So, how does building with AgentKit actually feel day to day? Think less IDE, more no-code automation studio. A user query hits a planner node, which fans it out to specialized agents, then an aggregator pulls their work into a final answer. Every edge in that graph is explicit, which makes debugging multi-agent handoffs far less of a black box. Here is the pattern break. Human in the loop guardrails are not afterthoughts at the API gateway. They are visual checkpoints in the flow, like pause here and page legal if this looks high risk. Under the hood, the connector registry behaves like an app store for agent capabilities. You might bind a Dropbox connector to a research agent that pulls PDF files, while a separate support agent talks to your CRM OAuth, secrets rotation, and scopes live in one central workspace instead of scattered environment variables. Once your agent graph behaves, ChatKit turns it into something users can touch with branding, roles, and permissions tailored to each surface. The payoff is simple. Workflows that used to demand hundreds of lines of orchestration logic now live on a single screen your whole team can understand. But none of this matters if you cannot pass an audit. Swarm never had to worry about compliance teams. AgentKit absolutely does. Every request and tool call flows through guardrails that enforce organization-wide rules about which data an agent can touch, which connectors it can hit, and how aggressively it can act without human sign-off. AgentKit bakes in PI masking, automatically redacting emails, phone numbers, and account IDs from traces and logs. This is the difference between screenshotting wild outputs on social media and actually shipping into finance, healthcare, or government environments. AgentKit also runs layered jailbreak detection, scanning prompts, intermediate thoughts, and tool outputs for prompt injection, role hijacking, and data exfiltration patterns. Instead of hoping your prompt is clever enough, the runtime itself is opinionated and defensive. On top of that, an integrated evals framework lets teams define evaluation sets, run them across agents and tools, and compare runs over time as they tweak prompts or routing logic. Those evals tie directly into production traces, so you can trace every step across planners, retrievers, and tools, and attach scores from automated or human graders. And here is the forward pull. That feedback loop sets up the next phase, reinforcement fine-tuning for agents. In November 2025, OpenAI rolled out an RFT beta, reinforcement fine-tuning, that lets teams optimize custom reasoning strategies and tool use policies based on real-world traces. It does not just nudge prompts. It trains models to choose better tools, sequence calls more efficiently, and skip unnecessary hops. Early internal tests show the O4 mini model running up to 30% more token efficient on complex tool-heavy workflows when tuned with these agent-specific signals. Stack all of this together and AgentKit stops looking like a dev toy. It looks like the control plane for your entire agent ecosystem. So who is actually winning with this today? Payment Processor Ramp rebuilt its internal engineering copilots on AgentKit's multi-agent stack and reports cutting iteration cycles by roughly 70%. Feature experiments, bug triage, and internal tooling updates move in days instead of weeks, because specialized agents handle code review, regression checks, and documentation in parallel. Under the hood, a planner agent breaks work into subtasks, a tooling agent hits continuous integration and observability APIs, and a documentation agent rewrites specs. This is not hype. It is a concrete productivity playbook. Coda is pushing just as hard on the customer side. By wiring its support stack through AgentKit, Coda automated roughly 2/3 of inbound support tickets, routing only the messy edge cases to humans. Routine issues flow through a triage agent, a retrieval agent that hits knowledge bases, and an escalation agent that flags anything uncertain. Humans stay firmly in the loop, approving tweaking or overriding responses instead of drowning in repetitive work. And with built-in evals and safety rails tracking hallucination rates and satisfaction scores, the system improves instead of silently drifting. Zooming out, AgentKit sits inside a much larger 2025 shift. AI is moving from single, do-everything models to networks of specialized agents that cooperate. Instead of one giant prompt trying to plan, execute, and verify, you have planner agents, researcher agents, executors, and critics negotiating over the best path forward. Think ant colony, not supercomputer. Multiple agents swarm a problem from different angles, share partial progress, and converge on answers faster than a monolithic system reasoning end to end in one shot. Researchers are formalizing this with ant colony-style optimization over language model swarms. A November 10 paper on Arxiv showed that multi-agent search, feedback, and voting loops can reach higher quality solutions with fewer failed runs, especially on complex reasoning and code tasks. The catch is obvious. Every extra agent adds computational overhead. More handoffs mean more tokens, more context to juggle, more traces to store. NIF swarms balloon latency and cost, which is exactly why frameworks like AgentKit and token-efficient models like O4 Mini under RFT matter so much. Industry numbers explain why everyone is racing into agentic AI. Internal benchmarks from trading firms show swarm sampling approaches boosting quant rewards by nearly double, while early adopters report 5 to 10 times faster experimentation cycles when they move from single agents to coordinated teams. McKinsey now calls agentic AI the top frontier of tech, projecting that AI-driven workflows could jump from around 3% of enterprise processes today to a quarter of all workflows by the end of 2025 if multi-agent systems mature as expected. This is not about one tool. It is about a complete rewiring of how digital work gets done. So where does that leave you as a developer, founder, or operator? The real dilemma in this AI gold rush is not access to models anymore. It is orchestration, safety, and integration. You can keep stitching together bespoke scripts, UI shells, and one-off connectors, or you can treat agents as first-class infrastructure. AgentKit is OpenAI's bet on that second path. Swarm is the ghost in the story, a useful reference point, but the real plot now belongs to its far more powerful spiritual successor. If you are serious about multi-agent systems in 2025 and beyond, your next move is clear. Stop just watching viral clips of so-called swarm agents and start actually designing agent organizations with real guardrails, evals, and connectors. Experiment with small, high-value workflows first. Internal engineering copilots, support triage, or research sprints, then scale out once the traces and evals look solid. And if you want a deeper dive into